Hello, everybody. Today we are going to start a very important topic that is photosynthesis. And this is the very important topic in the IBDP curriculum or whichever curriculum you choose, that photosynthesis is always important and it holds a lot of weightage. So let's begin with the topic without wasting our time. And we already know the meaning of the photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means making something. That means here the plants that we see here, the plants are going to use light as a source of energy, and they are going to use that light energy for synthesizing their own food. So slowly and gradually we'll be diving deeper into this topic. And before that, let's understand more about it. So the question arises, where exactly the photosynthesis takes place? So basically, if you see, the green parts of the plant are mainly specialized for photosynthesis. And if you know, we already know in the green parts, basically the leaves are the major part of the plant which perform the photosynthesis. In some cases, the green stem of the plant also perform photosynthesis because they contain certain specialized cells, certain specialized organelles that we are going to talk about. So what is the question arises, what is special in these the leaves? So we have already talked about this in the previous video. You can watch the previous video to understand the cross section of the leaf, but just for the understanding, I'll elaborate once again. So in the cross section of the leaf, we can see here, there are two major types of cells. The cells that you see here, these are basically known as the palisade parenchyma. And if you look at their structure, these are basically the cylindrical cells. And these dots that you are seeing here, these are basically the specialized organelles present in the cells. And the cells that you see here, these are known as the spongy parenchyma. And why they are known as the spongy? Because these are loosely arranged and there are a lot of air spaces between them. And these palisade and the spongy parenchyma together forms the mesophyll cells. So mesophyll cells are the cells which are basically, these are specialized for photosynthesis. And why they are specialized for photosynthesis? Because they contain a specialized organelle that we'll be learning soon. And this is specialized organelle that we see in the case of palisade and the spongy, we call it as the chloroplast. And that means the main organelle which is responsible for the process of photosynthesis is the chloroplast, or we can say that the site for the photosynthesis is chloroplast. Moving ahead. So what happens in the chloroplast, that plants take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and the roots absorb the water, and in the presence of sunlight and the chlorophyll, they synthesize glucose as the food. So one thing that's a very common question that is asked, that plants synthesize their food in the form of glucose. But when it comes to storage, we already know the plant store their food in the form of starch. And when it comes to transportation, how the starch, how the glucose is transported in the plant, so it is transported in the form of sucrose. And whenever the photosynthesis takes place, you will see that oxygen is released as a byproduct. So that's the reason the plants are also referred as the atmospheric purifier. Why atmospheric purifier? Because they are taking in carbon dioxide and they are releasing the oxygen here. So this is the basic equation of photosynthesis that we need to remember, that the plant utilizes carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to produce glucose, which is basically stored in the form of starch. And when it comes to transportation, it is transported in the form of sucrose. And during the same process, glucose, the oxygen is released as a byproduct. Now, if you look at the process of photosynthesis, it occurs in two different phases. The light, one is the light dependent reaction, and the second one is light independent reaction. Why light dependent reaction? Because light is a necessary condition. That means this process will not occur if there is no light here. Whereas if we talk about the light independent reaction, as the name suggests, light is not a necessary condition. Light is not a necessary condition here. So we need to understand here, the photosynthesis occurs in two different phases. One is the light dependent reaction, and the one is independent reaction. Light dependent because light is a necessary condition, and without light this process cannot take place. Whereas the light independent, as the name suggests, they are not dependent upon the light. That means it can happen either in the presence or absence of light. It does not matter much here. Now, moving ahead. Now, if you look at if we observe the under the plant cell under the microscope, so this is how a chloroplast looks like. So here I put a question: which microscope is basically used? So here that you see here, this image is taken from the electron microscope. So you can see how clear the image is. And in order to understand this better, I'm gonna explain you the whole structure of the electron whole structure of the chloroplast, and then we can discuss about the labeling and everything. How we can, so that you can connect with the image in a better way. So this is another view of the chloroplast, how it looks under the microscope, and this is again taken through the electron microscope. Now, coming here, the first thing that when you look at the structure of the chloroplast, we need to understand here that it is a double membrane bound organelle. Why double membrane bound organelle? The reason is very clear here, as you can see in the diagram as well, that it is having two membranes. This is representing the outer membrane, and this is representing the inner membrane. So that's the reason we call it as a chloroplast, as a double membrane bound organelle. Moving ahead, if you see here, there are various disc-like structure like this. If you look at the diagram very carefully, you can easily notice here. So one single disc-like structure that you see here, we call it as thylakoid. That means if we talk about this particular part, this is representing a thylakoid. But if we talk about this stack of thylakoid, we call it as grana, or we call it as granum. It's singular in the plural thing, so there is no need of getting confused with it. So, and if we talk about the group of thylakoid, we call it as the grana. Now, if you see here carefully, you will see that these granums are connected with the help of these structures, which are connecting the granums. And these structures are basically referred as the stroma lamellae. So these stroma lamellae are basically connecting the various organelles, various granums together. Now, another very important thing that you will see here, there is a ground substance that is filled inside the chloroplast. And these ground substance that you see here, we call it as the stroma. So stroma is a ground substance that is filled inside the chloroplast. And what is the significance of the grana, thylakoid, or a stroma? We will be connecting it very soon. So if I go back, you will see here one very important thing that we need to remember, or that I want to connect here, that light dependent reaction, definitely light is a necessary condition. But where exactly this light dependent reaction takes place? It occurs in the grana, or you can say that it occurs in the thylakoid of the chloroplast. Whereas if we talk about the light independent reaction, where it takes place, it occurs in the stroma of the chloroplast. So these are the two major differences that we need to remember. Definitely, there are many more differences. It is just the basics that we are learning right now. Now, moving ahead. So one more thing. In the lower grades, we already studied that chloroplast is a semi-autonomous organelle. What is the meaning of semi-autonomous organelle? That means it can make copy of itself. And why can it make copy of itself? Because it has two major components of itself. One is the protein synthesizing machinery, that is the ribosomes, and it also has its own genetic material. So with the help of its own genetic material and with the help of its ribosomes, it can make copy of itself, and that's the reason we call it as a semi-autonomous organelle. And here I have a question for you. Can you put in the comment box one more? There is one more cell organelle which is also semi-autonomous. It can also make a copy of itself. So just you can put it in the comment box, and we'll see. Let's see how much how much we are able to recall from the previous grades. Now moving ahead. So this is one question that I have here. So we are going to label these parts. So let's begin here. So a single disc-like structure. What I said. What do we call it as? We call it as thylakoid. Then the group of thylakoid, what we call it as? We call it as grana. And the various grana are connected together with the help of these stroma lamellae. And what you see here, the ground substance present in the chloroplast, we call it as stroma. And What you see here, we clearly discussed that chloroplast is a double membrane bound organelle. That means it is going to have one outer membrane, and it is also going to have this inner membrane. And we will also cover this, we'll learn about this in the under the topic compartmentalization, that how these outer and the inner membrane are important for creating the compartmentalization, and so that the chloroplast can perform its function efficiently. So this is a very important topic. We'll learn more about it, and it's a very important topic when it comes to the cell structure and everything.